All right, welcome back. We're going to go through question number 5 here. This is on page 85 in your packet, page 85. All right, and question number 5 is the story of a charter boat tour costs C dollars for P passengers, where the relationship between C and P is modeled by this equation. C is equal to 135 plus 11.95 times P. Now recall that P is the independent variable of this situation, and C is the dependent variable. That's why the equation is written this way. C is equal to all of that because that's what we're often trying to calculate. So that becomes our dependent, and P, representing the number of passengers, is our independent because we can choose any number of passengers for this story, and that will determine what the cost is going to be. So question A says, make a table of values showing the charges for no passengers, 4 passengers, 10 passengers, and 20 passengers. And we've done several of these before. We can do a table of values going straight across. And we always put our independent on top because that's the first information we need to put in, and our dependent information goes on the bottom. If you were doing a vertical table, your independent would go on the left and your dependent would go on the right side of the table. Since we're doing horizontal, we're going to do it this way. And we're going to figure out how much for 0 passengers, for 4 passengers, for 10 passengers, and for 20 passengers. And I'll extend my line a little bit here. All right. So to find these values, we just go ahead and plug the numbers in to the equation above. We just put in our numbers in for the variable P there. In the case of 0 passengers, 1195 times 0 is 0, plus 135 would be a cost of $135. However, if you think about it, that really doesn't quite make any sense, because if there's no passengers, why would there be a charge? So really that should be 0, but according to the equation, it would cost $135. If we repeat that with 4 passengers, 1195 times 4 plus 135 will give us $182.80. For 10 passengers, $254.50. And for 20 passengers, it would be an even $374. And there's our table of values. Pretty straightforward. We just substitute a number for P, and we calculate. We multiply by 1195 first, and then we would add the $135 to that. We can do that for any number of passengers. So now, questions B and C. What does the 135 represent, and what are its units? And what does the 1195 represent, and what are its units? Well, let me switch colors here. Well, the 135 could represent like a base charge, a base rental fee. Like I'll just call it the base rental fee, right? No matter how many passengers you've got, you got to pay something for the boat. So that could be the base rental fee. And that units, and the units then would be dollars in this story. Okay. The 1195 then could be, one way to interpret this is the 1195 is the ticket price per person, or cost per person, per passenger, per person. There are different ways to talk about this, but really they kind of mean the same thing. Again, that would also be in the units. The units would also be dollars. And the 1195 is also, if you remember back to previous lessons, the 1195 would represent, this would represent our rate of change. This would represent our rate of change, right? And the base and the 135, the base rental fee, would represent our starting. That's where we start, our starting point. I think back in one of the other packets was page 45, I believe, in one of the other chapters, in chapter 2, I believe, where it talked about how we construct that equation from our information. All right, so let's move on. Question D. Here we have a person named Freya, and Freya rented out the boat and was charged $326 for use of the boat. How many passengers were there? Set up and solve an equation to answer the question. Now, this is a little bit of the reverse of what we were doing before, up in question A. Here we know the total cost. We can even add to the table here, $326.20, and we need to find the number of passengers. Well, if we think about what we did here, when we were finding the red numbers, we were putting in the number of passengers and calculating the total cost. We can do the same thing but backwards. Setting up an equation, we take that original equation, but C equals 135 plus 1195 times the number of passengers. In this case, we don't know the dependent amount. We know we don't know the independent amount, but we do know the dependent amount. We know the dependent amount is $326.20, and we know we have to get that by using the same numbers. All right, so we can actually work this equation backwards, and that's what we do when we solve the equation. We work it backwards to calculate that missing amount. And so what we can do then is we can take away the 135, take away 135, because that's the charge of the boat. Okay, and when we do that, I'm going to pull up the calculator here quick. We have 135, oops, sorry, we'll do 326.20, subtract 135, and we end up with $191.20. So $191.20. And then what we have, I'm going to move over here because I'm running out of room. That is how much the passengers cost total. So we can take that $191.20 and divide by the $11.95 per person. And we find, and I'll verify that with the calculator here, divide by $11.95 per person, we get 16 people, 16 passengers. And if you want to check, you can take the 16 and go back to the original equation, just like we did up top here with the red ones, and put in 16 and see if we do indeed get 326.20 again. We sure do if we do that. I'll let you check on that one. Question E says graph and check. Well, I like to use Desmos, and I provided a link on the web page for that. But here is the graph if we put the equation in, and I've highlighted the points where we have, I'll just keep them in green there. So here is our starting at 0 passengers, $135, although, again, that really doesn't quite make sense for this story, because why would you charge an amount if you're not using the boat? Nobody's going to be on there. 4 passengers are at $182.80. 10 passengers, $254.50. 20 passengers over here, $374. And then this green line here represents the 16 passengers. $326.20 for 16 passengers. And you can see that our x-axis represents the number of passengers as our independent, and our vertical axis is our dependent variable, which is the total rental cost. So there is question 5. Leave some questions or comments below if you have anything to ask about this, and we'll look at the next questions in the next video.